This is another tutorial for using Zentracker for those who have little to no experience recording music. The focus of this tutorial is effects, otherwise known as plugins. On the left, in the middle, there are 3 buttons to change views. This is similar to switching between equipment in a physical recording studio. The top button, which is the default view we've been using, shows the tracks vertically with the volume slider, the pan knob, and buttons for settings, and to solo, mute, or record enable the track. The middle button with the picture of a plug is for plugins, which are tools to enhance or change the recorded sound. These are also known as effects. This can get very complicated and there is an art to it, but for the beginner we can point to a few things to help. It is worth making experimental recordings and playing around with the plugins to see what happens. There are standard ways to use all of these plugins, but you can also make very strange, cool sounds by using them in non-standard ways. This may happen naturally if you don't know what you are doing, and that is great. Many people learn how to use these tools properly by using them the wrong way first. Don't be afraid. You can always remove the plugin and start over if you don't like the sound. The bottom button is to view send tracks, which we will explain later. Now we will focus on plugins. Not all of the plugins listed are available for free. We will only look at the free ones. You can also only apply 2 plugins per track for free. A caveat: I am mainly a classically trained live performance kind of person, not a sound engineer. This is not my area of expertise, but it should be enough to get you started. I will not be going into great detail, just explaining what the usual and maybe some of the unusual uses for each plugin are. For more detail, you can look up each plugin on YouTube and find sound engineers to explain the finer points if you so desire. Record something on track 1. As you play it back, you can test out the plugins. Tap the loop icon in the transport so that your recording plays back continuously as you explore. Tap the plugins button on the left. Tap on Audio Effect in track 1. You will then see a list of plugins. If I select the plugins view and I select the plugin that I want to look at, you will notice that the transport on the right does not vanish and it blocks the view of your plugin, and you've got to scroll back and forth to see it. So, the way around this, going back to where we started, is we're going to go to the very bottom button in the lower left-hand corner. This switches between the individual track view and the audio editing view, which we will look at in more detail in another tutorial. From here, I will now tap on the plugins button. I will touch auto wah, and you'll see it's a little shrunk again and a little obscured. And so then if I tap the plugins button again, now the effect is taking up the full screen and we can more easily see it and talk about it. Here in the plugin window, in the upper left-hand corner, second item in, you have a button that looks like a power switch. This is to turn the effect itself on and off so you can compare. The next thing, it says default. This is the setting that it's on when you open up the plugin. If you tap on it, you get a list of presets that are worth going through and exploring and hearing what changes. The presets only affect what is down in the window, so things like threshold, attack, release, and so on. If you don't know what any of those things mean, don't worry about it for now. You can look it up on the internet, or you can just play around with it and see what changes. Sometimes things will change, sometimes they will not. Again, that's why you play with it. Pre has to do with the preamp. It has to do with how much of the signal is being sent into the effect. So if you turn it all the way off, none of your signal will be sent to the effect. And if you turn it all the way up, all of your signal will be sent to the effect. Gain raises or lowers the amount of the signal, the amount of the sound that is being sent. And mix has to do with how much of what you are hearing is the original recording and how much of it is in the plugin. So if it's halfway, you get 50% your original recording and 50% of the plugin. If it's all the way, you hear just the plugin. And if you turn it all the way off, it is similar to using the on-off switch. Boom, 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 boom. Back at the track plugin view, tap and hold the plugin and you can delete it. Chorus takes the sound and adds copies to itself, but varies the copies so that it sounds like multiple people, like a chorus or a choir. Playing with the knobs changes how extreme the variations of the copies are. A little variation sounds normal and a lot sounds crazy. So you can use this to fake having multiple people, which fattens up your sound a little, or to make it sound like aliens have invaded your recording session, which could be fun. The compressor is one of the most used plugins, particularly for rock, pop, rap, etc. It is mainly to take tracks that have very different volume levels, think drums versus voice, for example, and even them out by compressing the louds and the quiets. You can balance the tracks better and make everyone sound loud like good rock and roll should sound. Because it's so important for that rock sound, it's a kind of a difficult and somewhat mysterious tool for a classical person with little studio experience like me. Learning to use it properly may even be the #1 reason people go to audio engineering school. Again, I will stress that you should experiment with it and listen. Don't let lack of expertise stop you. I won't do an audio example with the compressor because you're not necessarily going to hear much of a difference in the sound unless I do something very extreme. The compressor really is about controlling the signal and the volume in your track so that there's room for all the sounds and that we have a lot of clarity in our recording. I will talk more about that in the tutorial about making sure your recordings are of a good quality and do not distort. Delay takes the sound and makes copies of it, but plays them back later, kind of like an echo. It can be set to the beat of your music with BPM sync. The link button will affect the sounds sent to each ear the same way. Unlinking them will allow you to change the delay settings for each ear. In a sense, this functions a little like chorus in that a small amount of delay can simply fatten your sound, and a lot can create cool, weird effects. The Equalizer is the other most used plugin, perhaps the most used. Thankfully, it is not as mysterious, to me at least, as compression. Keep in mind that any sound is a set of vibrations and not just a single vibration. The Equalizer can pick out certain frequencies and make them louder or quieter. Microphones do not pick up sounds in the same way your ears do. I find that using the Equalizer can help make your track sound more like what your ears naturally hear. The flanger is another effect based on something that electric guitarists have often used to change their sound. Very simplified, it's kind of like a combination of a chorus and a delay that results in a constantly changing sound quality. Use it to get unusual sounds. Reverb is short for reverberation, which is like an echo and is therefore like a kind of delay plugin. The main difference between delay and reverb is that reverb is made to imitate spaces like rooms, concert halls, cathedrals, or even a cave, so it's not timed to the beat or designed to make weird sounds like delay is. Reverb is also best applied to a send track. See the bottom view button here, and that will show you plus send. Okay. And now we're on the send track. And so on the send, so I have sent my audio to the send track, and I can put reverb on the send track instead. So the send track is a separate alternate track you can copy or send the original sound to, so that you have control over the mix of your original sound and your reverb sound. If you apply reverb directly to the track, you only have the reverb sound. Having both sounds more realistic. Obviously, if realism is not what you are looking for, do what you need to. Bum boom bum 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 boom bum boom bum boom bum 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 boom bum boom bum. Bum boom bum 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 boom bum boom bum boom bum bum boom boom bum. Bum boom bum 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 boom boom bum boom bum boom bum. Bum boom bum 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 boom boom bum boom boom bum. Bum boom bum 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 boom boom bum boom boom bum. Bum boom bum 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 boom boom bum boom bum. Bum boom bum 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 boom boom bum boom bum boom bum.